I'm about to lose my mind. You've been gone for so long. I'm running out of.
Alright guys, here is the 701 Industries surf straps. Just want to go through a walkthrough on the installation and kind of a comparison with the King X-Lace strap. First off is we'll take a measurement on them. As you can see, they're right at 4 inches width, and then at the base you're right at about 5.5 inches on the inside, and of course on the outside mounting area you're right at 7.5 inches. Your height just plain is right about 4 inches. Of course, you know, that's going to depend on the turfing that you have. But when you look at it compared to the X-Lace, they're actually right at the same size, even though the 701s look a little large to begin with. They are the same size. Actually, overall, they pretty close to the same width. Of course, the width is right on. One thing about them is they do stand up a little bit compared to the X-Lace. One thing is that will make it a little easier to find when you're just trying to kick in. One of the things that I had a problem with my X-Laces was trying to get a foot in there blindly as I'm riding. Sometimes it's a little bit of a pain. Doable, but a pain. And of course, material is pretty slick. Should make it easier to kick in, kick out of. Of course, you know, what you're going to do is pull your heel up and slide out when you're ready to come out of them. Haven't ridden on them yet. I'll let you know how that goes. You do have, when you get them, each one has the strap, the 6 screws, and then your plate. The base plate, you have to make sure that you keep the base plate lined up, as there is a taper on either side. So when you slide the plate in, make sure that you have the plate slid in the right position. As far as the ski goes, I've already removed my X-Laces, which is why you see all the dust here from drilling out the rivets. I'm going to go ahead and lay my plates in, find the right position, and usually what most people seem to like with these is right before the kick up. Seems to work very well. That's where my X-Laces were, and actually worked quite well for me. It keeps my heel and most of my foot planted back here on the kick up. Still gives you a lot of room that you can step out, put your foot up here on the kick up, and have a lot of control. And you still got a bunch of room in front of you. But if you do happen to step down on one of the 701, they actually will. Once you get your plate where you want it, you're going to take a small drill bit and you're going to drill out the holes on either side. Once you do that, then you're going to step up to a larger bit with the plates moved, and then another larger bit. Just work your way up. I think the final size that I use here is a 9/32, which should fit the screws for this. Basically, you just want the screws to slide through those holes, so a 9/32 will work fine. To do this install, you're going to need the 9/32 drill bit, a couple of smaller drill bits for a pilot hole, and then to work the hole a little bit larger. You're also going to need a 5mm Allen head. That's pretty much the basic tools that you're going to need for this. So you might find that some other tools like a little hammer to tap the plate into place gently would come in handy, as well as maybe a screwdriver or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and get these holes drilled, and I'll show you when I'm done. Alright, I've got all my holes drilled and opened up so that the screws will pass through. The next thing that I personally do, just to make sure that the holes will all line up, is with some screws screwed partially way down the plate, long enough that they'll actually screw into or stick into the holes. I lay my plate in and test fit, make sure it sits flat as it can, based on the fact that you've got turf and stuff in here, but no binding or anything like that, just to make sure that my holes are actually going to be able to line up when I put my plate in. Next thing I'll do is go ahead and take these screws out, and once I take these screws out, I'll show you putting the plate into the ski. Alright, I've got the holes drilled, made sure they're even. Now what we're going to do is come in on the inside. Excuse the camera angle, kind of tight to get in here, but with your plate still lined properly in the right direction, you're going to slide it in, and then come on this side, out on the hole side, and make sure that your holes are actually lined up. And then once your holes are lined up, you're going to screw everything down. One of the things that I find to be easier is if I take one of the screws, screw it in partially, that'll keep that particular screw hole lined up. I can then take another screw and put into another hole. This actually gives me a little bit of a handle between these two screws to line the other screw holes up, and I'll go ahead and work on getting that taken care of, and I'll get right back to you and show you the rest of it. Alright, I've got my holes lined up now. What I'm going to do is put mine in and start working on screwing it down. Now, one thing I will tell you, as I bolt mine down just for the purpose of recording, is when you do this, I would highly recommend that you use a little bit of silicone around each of the bolt holes, especially if you're in the same boat I'm in, where you had some holes drilled through for the X-lace or any other type of foothold. That just makes sure that you keep the water out of the hole. Just a little added insurance. But for purposes of video, I'm just going to go ahead and screw it down, and then I will come back behind and actually install them with some silicone, since at this point it's nothing more than just unscrewing them and screwing them back down. I just want to get to a point where I can show you what they look like installed. Again, one thing I did want to mention was that you want to make sure that you keep that plate lined up right, in the right direction. There's a taper towards the front of the plate, so make sure that you have that pointed towards the front of the ski, just to make sure that everything lines up right, because it will not line up the other way around. And there you have it. Installed height, if you can see, is right or just shy of 4 inches with just one layer of turf underneath it, and that's in the back. Front is 2.5 inches on the inside, and again, that's just with one piece of turf. If you find that this is too big, what you can do is add some turf, however you would like to do it. Either if you're returfing your ski, you could add a little layer of turf in between and build it up a little bit, and then add your outer layer of turf over top of that, or layer some turf. Alright, as you can see, they are final. They're in their spots, and I'm going to take it out hopefully this weekend, and I'll get you a little bit of information on what I feel when I take them out. Alright guys, one thing I did want to mention on here, if you do happen to land on these, they are pretty forgiving. They squish with a little pressure, and then they pop right back into shape. One thing about the canes that I already mentioned is how they stayed real flat on the surface. Biggest problem for me with that was it was harder to find them with your feet kind of blind. These pop back up in a normal position, real easy to hit, you know. But I did want to show that they do flatten out, so landing on them is not too uncomfortable, because they do get pretty flat.